I am in a long trade right now on Bitcoin. Following up from my previous YouTube video where I was calling for a fake out of the triangle high to bring us down towards the range low, that has happened and I am in a long trade now. So I'll be giving you a further explanation to this long, where we're looking for next, is there an upcoming short trade setup, and everything in between. It is a weekend right now. We're on a Sunday. I am traveling, so I'm going to keep this one short, sweet, to the point, but professional and helpful as always. So I hope that you truly enjoy this one. And yeah, let's get over to the charts. So I suppose I'm going to start off first of all actually picking up where I left off my last video. This was actually 4 days ago we've been playing with this prediction. Didn't need another update because it's been playing exactly as I was talking about. We were looking for this rise to the upside of the triangle to give a little bit of a fake out of the high of the triangle before making our way down to around $115,000. This was the scenario that I was saying nobody's aware of. Nobody in the world is going to be, well, of course that's an exaggeration, but there's very few people in the world that will be looking for this triangle to fake out to the upside before coming back down. Everybody was just bullish for all-time highs, and when everybody's so bullish, that's where these little X waves just are absolutely wonderful trade scenarios. You can see in the end these are the exact trend lines that we had. Okay, you can see those were the exact trend lines that we had, and this is how price action has played out in the end. We made our way up out of the triangle. Then we came back into the triangle. That and this point of time, well, for these trend lines, has confirmed a triangle fake out right into the low of the CC zone. From that Fibonacci high to the low, you can see how you just made your way right on tapping into the CC Fibonacci from high to low of the triangle. And on top of that, of course, just a simple fake out. So the price action coming out and then coming back down below. That is a short trade setup in itself. You could have entered a short at this point, stop loss above the high. Well, of course, prices went sideways for a few more days, but the target itself did not change. And this really was focused on a larger move to the downside. And this is, you always have to be aware of two different trade scenarios, right? You could have done this fake out, held another higher low and moved upwards towards all-time highs. That's one trade scenario that we could have been aware of. But of course, at this point on the Thursday or the Friday, you've not got a long trade. So what do you have to be aware of? Well, the only long trade that you can get into is if a move to the downside comes. And that's what happens. And that's why you got to be aware of these trade scenarios. What happened? We came down. We've done a little bit of a fake out of the range low. In the end, a very simple fake out, to be honest. But we come down below the range low, retest. Of course, this is a scenario looking for all-time highs. I'll explain whether I'm still looking for that. This is the type of way that you make plans, understanding. It's the same when you're making a plan for the short. You're also making your plan for the long trades, right? And so this did play out very nicely with this move to the downside, doing a fake out of the low, actually getting a retest, and now we're making our way back up. So I am in a long trade right now. There are a few things I want to emphasize while we're getting this move to the downside and trading at the lows here, around $115,000. For me, the most important thing to remember when price is crashing or when price is moving down, we can say, is for me anyway, the one and only trade to look for is a long. I'm not looking for the shorts. Okay, the one and only trade is a long. Don't fear the drops, plan and get ready to buy. This was a post from Friday as well on Twitter or X. And of course, this is a post from the morning of Friday in the Champions group where I was saying to the members, the best entry trigger for me will be a market structure change. And of course, zero interest in shorts, not interested in shorting. We are at massive support. Why would I be looking for shorts at $115,000? The one and only trade that we're looking for is a long trade. And then I did get my long trade filled. So I went off of the market structure change, nice and easy, simple plan, got into my long. That was on Friday, got into my long. I've told my team yesterday on Saturday, staying in my long trade, letting it run. And this is what we're seeing today. So this is now Sunday. This is the price action that we have right now. So with that said, where and why are we looking for the next levels? So very quick 10-second summary of what's gone on here over the past few days, because it has been extremely nice price action. We had the fake out of the triangle. We had let's come down here on the 1 hour chart. We had that lovely fake out of the triangle, faked out the triangle, came down to the overall range low where we got a fake out of the range low, and now we're making our way back up. One thing that I want to emphasize before I move on is the pivot of the range low. You can see that was the pinpoint accuracy. We did not choose this low, we did not choose this low, but we chose this low here, and that is the correct pivot for the fake out retest. Okay, so that's how we got to where we are now. Hope that you have learned something there and how you can look to trade that into the future. Because again, price action is all the fractal. It happens again and again, the same thing. So, well, we can remove the trend lines because we're no longer trading off of that triangle. And what I want to load up is a few different naked pointed controls, because one we're actually moving into right now as we speak. So this is one where I'm going to be looking for a take profit on my long trade. That is this naked pointed control here, $118,800. So we can add this in together right now. That is coming in at $118,800. So you can see how this is right above price action. So we're moving into it very close here. We're not very far away. We are talking about 0.3% away from this daily naked pointed control. What I will be saying is we generally like to see confluence at levels. One of the best things I like to look for is a fixed range. You can see here you don't really have the confluence lining up with the daily naked pointed control. Another one is from the all-time high, but again, no real confluence lining up there. So what we can start to do here is look at Fibonacci. Much how we pulled the Fibonacci from the high to the low, we came into around the CC. What we can do now is from this high to this low, you can see what we're into now. Okay, so if you wonder, oh, what's been happening on, Saturday and Sunday? Why have we not moved up? Well, you can see how much we're struggling with this CC right now. We moved into it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Well, we're on the 6th attempt at it now. Of course, one expects us to get through $18,500. But what I like here at $18,800, this is a new Fibonacci level that I'm testing, not released yet to the public. But yeah. This is a new fib that I'm testing. Anyway, it's lining up with the perfect confluence of $118,800. Do I say that this is a short trade setup? For me, very reactionary dependent, but it will be a take profit on my long. So I do have the long from lower. I'm in a very nice position. This will be where I would like to lock in that take profit one. Do I take a short at the same time? This is reactionary dependent and on the order flow, because, well, you obviously know I've got the long from the lows. I'm looking for all-time highs. I do think that we can get all-time highs, but there's one thing that we have to be aware of now, and that is the CME gap that we're going to form. Okay, so we close the CME here, 118,300. So let's say we open the CME on and around the daily naked point of control, right? Remember, this is trading above. This is going to be, so let's say we open, above 119K to CME. We're going to have this CME gap, and this generally likes to be filled. And so that doesn't mean, well, we're going to short Bitcoin off of a weekend rise. No, that's definitely not what I would look to do. Okay, we have to be very patient and coordinated with our trade setups. But it's just to not forget about it. That's why I mention it. We don't want to forget the CME chart. Okay, we don't want to forget the CME gap that's formed from this weekend. I think that's the one thing that why I mention a short trade, because ultimately my preferred preference is all-time highs. But I do think that we have a few different short trade opportunities lining up. I would have loved to have seen confluence at the range value area high, to be honest with you. But minor-ish confluence there, if we're totally honest. So it's a difficult one, because not really difficult per se, but I think the next level for me anyway is $118,800. We got the fib, the new fib, and we got the daily naked point of control. And I would say from this to the value area high, this is where we could look for that fake out coming into the CME open. Okay, especially if we get this rise on the CME open with that gap to the downside, it's just giving us this nice, again, this is thinking outside of the box, but a rise to the value area high, coming back down to fill the CME gap, but flipping the point of control into support. That, of course, then supports another rise to the upside. So that's kind of like a local trade setup that we have over the next 12 hours. But I think for me, in terms of bigger, stronger levels, it's still going to be around $120,500. That for me is still a nice level, not one that I'm going to forget about. The new Fibonacci that I'd be pulling is from the all-time high down to the low that we formed. You can see how this lines up with that $120,000 zone. So, I'm just not forgetting this right now. I think we have a local resistance where I'm looking for a take profit on the long. Not so interested in the short from here, but if it lines up perfectly on the order flow, of course I'm not going to shy away from it. I just do not think it is the strongest resistance. Thus, I'll happily take a take profit, right, on my long, and that's not closing my long, of course, that's just taking a smaller take profit percentage. But the bigger level I do feel is around $120,000. Here we have I'm looking at right now is a kind of a nice 3-drive setup. So 3-drive setup is where we have our initial rally, okay, or initial drop, you could say, rally. And then I'm looking at this is the next low. We could form this kind of nice 3-drive setup. Okay, and this is just something that I'm aware of if we are to get our rejection from around $120,000 again. Something that I'm, not ruling out at this point in time. So I hope you can understand here how and why I get the plans that I get. Okay, so it's very simple, and I've got another thing to explain that is important for you before I end the video, but just to make sure I haven't lost anyone here. Again, the whole plan started with recognizing a drop to the downside. While everyone was super bullish, we were ready and waiting for a short trade. Of course, when you take, if you took that short trade, I'm not saying you did, but if you took that short trade, well, then you are very happy while waiting for a move to the downside, or even if price pumped from here at the end of the day. It doesn't matter, right? It's just a losing short trade, but it did win in the end. We made our way down to range low. Now you're in a long from around, the range low zone. And again, you're not in any, you're not in any bad scenario. You're in an excellent scenario where you could still have your short from the high and your long from the low. Okay, stop loss at entry on both of them. And now just play it patiently. I will be waiting for two things. Reaction at 118.8. Why? I got Fibonacci and daily naked point of control. Again, I do not think it's the biggest level in the terms of the grand scheme of things, but I do think it's a nice level to be aware of. Alert set. If we get the bearish reaction, then of course we can get the short trade. Again, especially because this will be pulled down, remembering that CME gap that's going to be there. So don't forget the CME gap. Bigger level for me though sits at around $121,000. Okay, this for me is what I would class as the bigger level. Okay, in terms of the downside, the most obvious thing that I'll be doing is pulling an uptrend anchored VWAP. You can see how just nicely straight away $117,000 zone, resistance, potential resistance support flip on the value area low of the range on the uptrend anchored VWAP. So the best scenario that you could be in right now is seeing something like that. Okay, and then we always know if it pumps, we get stopped out at the short. If it did end up dumping, we get stopped out at the long. But again, I'm never scared to take a long at support when price drops. I'm never scared to take a short at resistance when price is rising. It all comes down to having plans. It all comes down to having entry triggers, invalidations, targets, take profits, right? That's what we're looking for here. Good plans, good trading plans, and through those good plans we start to find high probability trades. You stop trading randomly taking longs in the middle of the drops. Why would you not take a random why would you take a long randomly in this section? Well, because you have no idea what you're doing, or you have no idea of a good probability trade setup. You wait for the drop. Where? You wait for the drop to the range low. So I didn't take a single long on Thursday or Friday, Thursday, Friday. Didn't take a single long from this point in time. There was not a long here. No longs, no long. When we come down to around $115,000, well, that's when we're ready and waiting, right? The only trade then we're ready for is the long trade. The long trade was given on Friday. Well, here we are on Sunday, I'm in the long. Again, I haven't taken a single take profit yet. Well, I could have locked in a take profit at a point of control, to be fair, but I didn't. So, I'm looking for my take profit one slightly higher because I do think this is a stronger level. Again, sometimes point of control, I couldn't say it's like a bad level, but anyway, I'm looking for a slightly higher, just a little bit more profit to be had on the long. And, anyway, I digress. I want to start to wrap up the video. I will say this, we are releasing next week the Atlas template. So if you do want to get your hands on this Atlas template, this will be for the contender and champion members. So, take advantage of that. That will be, this is a lot of hours and work that's been put into this. So yeah, that will be released to the members. And a lot of people saying, EXO is super glitchy. That's the primary reason I left, by the way, because EXO has just become glitchy. The levels actually are not as well respected. If you go and do your own research on this, but I will tell you now, the levels that we're seeing on Atlas are better respected because there are differences. If you just look, for example, just do this. Go on EXO charts and look at the monthly naked point of control. If you're very lazy, I think I could even do this for you really quickly. EXO charts, let me just see. And then I'll wrap up the video. So just to show you the difference here, this is EXO charts, the software that I'm no longer going to be using. For example, look at this, a front run of the monthly naked point of control. If you were waiting for that monthly naked point of control, guess what? You missed the long trade. You got wrecked. Why? Because the EXO data was telling you the monthly naked point of control is being front run. Whereas you come over to Atlas, look at this. The monthly naked point of control was the absolute low there at $105,300. So there's discrepancies with these naked point of controls on the exact same tick sizes, but Atlas has the better data. And so that is just one of a few different reasons of why I've left EXO and now I'm trading on Atlas. And the templates will be released next week for the members. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed. Hope this has made sense. Nice to see that price is moving up as well because, well, that's what I'm looking for. Nice quick video. Probably not going to do a YouTube video again for, 3 or 4 days. So if you want to see me before that, of course, tomorrow, I will tell you I have live streams tomorrow for the champion members. But for the YouTube updates, I don't know, it'll be maybe later this week, it's Thursday, maybe next week, right? So, my time is going to be much more. You can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 live streams in the next few days just on the website. So, just don't have much time for the YouTube updates. So anyway, I digress. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope this has been helpful nevertheless. Cheers, everybody. If you want to see more, you know where to get me, chartchampions.com. Thank you ever so much. And that's me signing out. Cheers. Thank you, and goodbye.